Hi guys! You know what time it is? It's time for beer. And to give you some tips on how to save money traveling Germany. Because I'm traveling myself and I see how ridiculously expensive some things are. So I've prepared a list for you with the best money saving tips for Germany. And I'm pretty sure that even if you live in Germany, you don't know many of these tips. When you're traveling, you have three main expenses: accommodation, transportation and food, and also activities, but that's the smaller part probably. Let's start with transportation. If you want to go from one city to the next one, usually the quickest way is to take the train, but trains can be ridiculously expensive in Germany. Until maybe 2-3 years ago, there was only one provider for the trains, and that is the Deutsche Bahn. So they basically have a monopoly and can ask whatever price they want. And as Germans are, they only give you a good price for the train ticket if you book far in advance, as much as possible. If you want to go from Berlin to Stuttgart, for example, which is almost through the entire country, takes like 6-7 hours, you would have to pay 150 euro for the train ticket if you book one day in advance or the same day. But if you book the same train ride for the same train 6 weeks in advance, it's only 25 euro. So you need to pay 600% more if you don't plan ahead in Germany. And that's actually the reason I rarely take the train, because I hate planning so far ahead. I don't know about you, but I'm glad if I know what I eat for dinner, you know? So book these train tickets as far in advance as possible. And as I mentioned, there's a new competitor on the market. It's called Flixtrain. They don't cover all the cities in Germany yet, but they have like 5 or 6 major routes they cover. And the train tickets there are way cheaper, so go check them out. Another alternative, which is even cheaper, would be the Flixbus, the buses. But yeah, you will need a lot of time. If you want to go the same ride from Berlin to Stuttgart, if you need 7 hours with the train, you would probably need like 10 to 11 hours with the bus. I personally wouldn't recommend taking the bus for trips that are more than 3 or 4 hours long, because they're not very comfortable. Another thing for the train tickets. If you are traveling only within a federal state of Germany, a Bundesland, with a group of people, you can get very good and cheap group tickets. It costs, I think, 25 euro for a day, so you can pay 25 euro for 5 people, altogether that's the whole price, and you can go the whole day as much as you want around the federal state, but only with the regional train, not the ICE, you know, not the fast one. Another great alternative is the BlaBlaCar, which is a platform everybody who has a car and is going to another city can list their ride there, and you can book a spot in their car to go to this specific city or to a city on the road. When I was studying, this was the only way I got around through Germany, because it's one of the cheapest ways to do so. You usually pay between 5 and 8 euro per 100 kilometers, depending on the car they use. And I've probably taken 30 to 40 trips with BlaBlaCar, and I actually never had a bad experience. And if you're too cool or too rich for any of those options, you can also rent a car in Germany. It's pretty easy to do. And there's one company I can recommend and one I can absolutely not recommend. I've rented quite a few cars in my days with many different companies. The one company I cannot recommend is Sixt. And this is only me speaking from my own experience and some experiences from my friends. I only had problems with this company. Last time I rented something from them, they sent me an invoice after of 1,000 euro 2 weeks later for a little scratch they found somewhere on the car. Yeah, I was not responsible for this scratch, and they wanted 1,000 euro. And then I talked to a friend who also used Sixt quite often for work, and he said, yeah, in 1 month he rented this company's car maybe 10 times, and 5 out of 10 times they asked for a lot of money after, like hundreds of euros, because of some little scratches they found. So I looked it up on Trustpilot, and it seems that a lot of people have the same issue with this company. So apparently, and this is just a thesis, they make very cheap prices to give you the car, but then they try to squeeze some money out with different, not so legal strategies, I would say. Yeah, they sent me an invoice of 1,000 euro And then I said, I'm not gonna pay this. Yeah, I didn't do this. And then they tried to threaten me with legal actions, with court, you know. I didn't pay, nothing happened. I never heard from them again. Some people pay, and if you don't pay, they don't do anything because they can't prove it was actually you. There's another company I used a lot to rent cars, and I had only good experiences with. I never had any problems, and that is Enterprise. Yeah, they have good prices, always reliable. This is not sponsored, I just like them. Okay, before we move on to the accommodation part, I quickly want to tell you about today's sponsor, NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the leading VPN clients out there, and in my opinion, everybody should have one. It doesn't only protect your online privacy, but it can also save you a lot of money. And here's how. I'm sure most of you have some form of subscription service like Netflix or Spotify, and there's the money to be saved. Did you know that those services have different prices for different countries? Netflix, for example, costs €8 in Germany per month, and in Turkey it only costs €2. So what many people do is just they change their virtual location from Germany to Turkey or somewhere else, and then they need to pay less for the subscription. And depending on how many subscription services you use, you can potentially save hundreds of euro each year. That means a VPN client is also a tool that can save you a lot of money. It's super easy to use. You can use it on up to 6 devices simultaneously. So if I want to connect to Turkey, for example, just quick connect, Istanbul, boom. And now I can save some money. If you don't already have it, go to nordvpn.com/radicalliving to get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month with a huge discount. And if you're still not sure if you need it, you can try it risk-free for 30 days with a money-back guarantee. You're welcome. Alright, next. Accommodation. So, in many big cities in Germany, we have something like the city tax. Bettensteuer in German, which is basically a tourist tax. In Berlin, for example, that's 5%, which you need to pay on top of the normal hotel rate. But there's a loophole. Business people who are traveling for business reasons don't need to pay this tax. And guess what? I was working in a hotel back in the day, and no one ever checks if you're actually on a business trip, especially if you're coming from abroad. You can just say, alright, I'm traveling for business reasons, and then you don't have to pay this tax. 5% safe. You can thank me later. For German people, there might be a very, very low chance they will actually check that at some point, but if you're coming from abroad, no chance. Another way to save 10 to 15% on the booking sometimes is to not book through booking.com or Agoda or something like that, because booking.com, for example, takes 20% commission on the booking. So 20% of what you're paying is not actually going to the hotel, but to the booking website. This is actually a tip you can use in the whole world because they take everywhere the same commission. So just call the hotel and ask if you can get 10% off on the listing price, and then there's a good chance they will say yes. In my experience, this works best for like smaller hotels, not so much with the big ones, because the big ones, they don't want to go through the hassle to make these separate bookings. But the small ones, if they get an extra 10%, they're very happy about that. Next, we have reached the food part. I didn't plan on this video becoming that long, but hey, here we are. We all want to save some money, right? Tip number 1, considering food. Choose your supermarket wisely. There are many different supermarkets in Germany, but there are 2 categories of supermarkets. There are normal big supermarkets like Rewe, Edeka, Kaufland, etc. And then there's discounters like Aldi, Lidl, Netto. And those 2 categories have huge price differences. If you're gonna fill your trolley in a discounter, you maybe have to pay €70 for a full trolley, depending on what you buy. But if you want to buy the same stuff in one of these supermarkets, you most likely will pay double, if not even more. What I usually do is I buy all my basics in the discounter, and everything I cannot buy in the discounter, like specialties and stuff, I will buy in Rewe or Edeka or Kaufland, because they have a much bigger choice. And if you do this, this will save you hundreds of euros each month, I promise you. Tip number 2 is pretty easy to do. Just drink tap water instead of bottled water. Tap water is basically free in your hotel, your Airbnb or wherever, and it's perfectly safe to drink. Germany is actually cleaner than bottled water because the regulation is much stricter. By law, the water quality of tap water needs to be better than it has to be for bottled water. The third tip is get an app like Too Good To Go, which is an anti-food waste app. It's non-profit, I guess. It's for free. Sometimes it's meals a restaurant has too many of, or bakeries. In the end of the day, they need to get rid of all the stuff. And also supermarkets put their products there, which are soon going to waste. With this app, you can check who's offering what where, and then you can just go there and get it for a better price. That's a very good way to save some money and also do something great for the environment, so less food goes to waste. And don't forget to bring back your empty cans and bottles to the supermarket. In Germany, there's a deposit on them. This one would be 25 cents, beer bottles are 8 cents, and the other plastic bottles are 15 cents. So bring them back, get your money back, do something good for the environment. When you're traveling, you also sometimes want to buy some stuff on the road, like clothing, maybe some local souvenirs. And there's a lot of money to be saved here. You don't necessarily need to go to a proper shop to get the good stuff. You can also go to the flea market. I think more than half of the stuff I own is from flea markets. Not only my clothing, but also my furniture. In Germany, flea markets are a big part of the weekend culture. Every Sunday in most German cities, even the small ones, there are flea markets. People don't only sell their second-hand stuff. There's also a lot of local designers and artists who have shops in the city, but on the weekend, on Sunday, they sell also on the flea market for a much better price, often like 50% off even. And they do that because they don't have to pay tax in the flea market. Oh, I almost forgot the most important tip, and that is to drink beer as much as possible. No, German beer, not this beer. Beer is so ridiculously cheap in Germany. It's probably the cheapest beverage you can get, aside from water. And there's actually a law in Germany that if you're going to a restaurant, there must be one option of beverage that is cheaper than beer, so that it's not more economic to drink beer and people will get drunk just to save some money. But this doesn't apply to the supermarkets. So there's some cheap beer brands that cost maybe 5 or 10 cents. Probably tastes like that too, but it's cheap. Save some money, drink some beer, and have a good time in Germany. If you have any other tips you think are worth sharing, put them in the comments below. I think the other viewers would appreciate that. Until next time, I'll be back!